looking real fancy in your nice clothes. Looking forward to that. But thank you for coming to cover today's incredibly emotional bill signing. As you could see, as you witnessed from the people who sat here, has been many, many, many years, sometimes decades of suffering and silence, and not feeling that their voices mattered, that the system of justice was not there for them. And today we ended that era. So I was very proud to be here, but it's also emotional to witness people in pain. So thank you for covering this. Any questions?
Just
Karen.
ask you about, it's just a little over a week to the end of session. What do you think realistically can get done in the next week? Now, are you really ending next week, or is it going to take longer?
Oh, I don't mind pushing any deadline out. You know that. You guys are a little slow on the uptake. I mean, yeah, okay, yeah, you better laugh more tonight, okay? I just want to say that. No, I will stay as long as necessary. The timetable is set by the legislature. There's a lot of work to do, but it is not unusual to have a mountain of work to do in the final weeks. It is the nature of Albany. And so we've been having a lot of meetings, staff meetings, conversations. I was with the mayor a couple days ago. I was with the speaker this morning. I mean, we're having a lot of conversation on what's important. But as far as what's realistically can get done, to answer your question, I do believe in my heart that we'll be addressing two major issues that have surfaced in light of the United States Supreme Court and what we anticipate them doing to the women of America very shortly. And so we're going to be working on a package that'll address, even in addition to what we've already done through executive action, addressing the issue of reproductive rights here in the state of New York. I also anticipate, as we had already planned to do before the massacre in Buffalo, that there will be ways to address the specter of gun violence in our streets and looking at specific weapons and how they're used, as well as other areas we can work on to work on public safety. An area that I believe is important to the city of New York is the right for the mayor to have mayoral control. I said that as part of mayoral control of schools. I said that as part of my state of state, as part of my budget. It is something that I believe is critically important for the children and their parents to have that stability, not just 1 year, not always have it be a political football, but to just get some resolution to that. And I just spoke with the mayor about that recently. I do hope we can make some progress in the affordable housing space, in addition to the $25 billion affordable housing package, 10,000 of which is supportive housing, which is critically important, but also ways we can, perhaps put together a trust to continue Nycha having the resources they need. That is something we've been talking about since January. So there's a lot of lots going to happen in the next couple weeks, and so I've got all my pens ready to go. I'm looking forward to joining with my partners in government, a number of bill signings on this as well. Louise?
The Assembly recently passed a crypto mining moratorium. The Senate is currently discussing it. What's your stance on the proposed bill around that?
You asking me to negotiate in public?
Your stance.
My stance is I will wait and see which both bodies come out, but there is a balancing act involved here, very much a balancing act, and I understand the passion on both sides of the issue to balance the needs to protect the environment, as I believe that the efforts in the Assembly is dedicated toward. I was just with Anna Kells this morning, a real champion of this issue in light of one of the facilities in her district in upstate New York. So we have to balance the protection of the environment, but also protect the opportunity for jobs that go to areas that don't see a lot of activity, and making sure that the energy that's consumed by these entities is managed properly, that we understand that there was a long history of using fossil fuel generating plants, the peaker plants, and you need to assess the volume of energy consumed by them in their existence versus what is being done now. So there's a lot involved. This is an area I've studied a great deal about, and have spoken about this with community leaders as well as in the environmental community, and also those who just want to have New York State be open to this kind of business. I'm open-minded. I want to see what the legislature comes forth with, and they're negotiating as we speak, and so I will literally be waiting to see what comes on my desk.
Governor, What is happening with 421A? Is 485 the basis for negotiations? Are there any negotiations, or is it kind of back to scratch with possibly extending this?
No, the mayor and I are in sync on this one as well, where everyone appreciated the effort that I put forth back in January, 485, which achieves the same objective, but creates more affordable housing and addresses a lot of the concerns that we thought existed with respect to 421A. I need to have more affordable housing in the city of New York and across this state. I know this is limited to New York City. I mentioned our $25 billion affordable housing plan. That'll serve a certain purpose, but I also want to make sure that we continue to build and at a time and have the private sector take a lead in this. This is not resolved yet. If it is not resolved in this session, then I would say we'll certainly be revisiting this early next year as a priority. But I don't know, again, I'm the governor. I'm not going to make an assumption on what the legislature will do. I will let them do their work, and then I'll continue my conversations with them behind the scenes. But I had stated before that this is an important objective, but I don't know that there is the interest in the legislative bodies at this time to get it through this year. That doesn't mean, as we know, that we live to see another day next year.
Governor, you mentioned the Nycha Trust bill. You're supportive of that, I assume?
Yes.
Is that realistic this year? Do you think it'll get passed? And also, practically speaking, what does it mean for the state if this trust takes out loans and ends up in default versus the current?
Now, we'll make sure that we limit our exposure to liability. Understood that. But it is a creative way to use existing laws that we've not taken advantage of before to have a steady flow of revenues to support NYCHA. Not changing the power structure, the control structure. This is something that has been talked about for a little while, but there has been a concern among the residents as to what this does to their ability to have decision-making power. It does not affect that at all. We need to do a little bit of education with the residents. So again, you're all asking me to, get my crystal ball out and assume I know what the legislature is going to do. I'm going to let them do their jobs. I have weighed in. Not sure what the outcome will be necessarily, but I also know that if this is not the year that something gets accomplished with the legislature because of reasons within their own conferences, then we'll do it again next year. But I do believe that has a chance of survival. I just can't say with certainty on this particular date.
Governor, do you regret the way you and your party mates handled redistricting this year, given where the maps have ended up drawn by a court in a way that has angered many of your fellow Democrats?
Yeah, every 10 years it's always a mess. I know quite a bit about redistricting, given that I lost my seat with redistricting in Congress a year ago, so I'm well familiar that it creates a lot of havoc, and the role that was played based on what had been signed by my predecessor, put into law, was to create this independent review, but it didn't have a remedy if the Republicans and Democrats didn't properly come together and find a middle ground. Perhaps I was asking too much, but that was what the premise behind the law was. I signed the maps that were presented to me, written and created by the legislatures in Washington as well as here. So the process played out the way the law was written. Do we need to do this differently? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So I'm going to be continuing. We have time now to look at what happened and to stabilize the situation. Right now there's a lot of confusion as to dates, et cetera, but we're continuing on the path we're on. And once this year gets through, we need to take a very serious look. What models have worked in other states? What is the best practice? Talk to people who've been involved in this and say, what went wrong here in the state of New York that led it to, ceding the power to certain judges and who had a tremendous amount of power in this. And is that the way the people want it to be? I think that legislative bodies are more representative, but we have to figure out the right answer. We don't have that answer today, but we need a better answer for the next time. That's the last one.
Should there be a State Department of Health review of nursing home and long-term care facility policies from the state during kind of the early weeks of the COVID pandemic?
We are doing that. I had said a while back that I'm going to be convening, and actually we have outside consultants that will be working with us to examine every aspect of the pandemic, the good, the bad, the ugly, because I have to be able to leave, future governors what was learned, not just in the healthcare space and the response dealing with nursing homes, but also decisions that affected our economy, decisions that affected families, remote education. What was the final analysis of whether or not that was the approach to take and whether or not that was proper. So it's going to take some time, but I believe that history deserves to have a true record of what would happen here, and I want an outside look at it. My team and the people who were involved at the time and Department of Health will participate in providing information, but I really want an independent analysis of every aspect of what went on during the pandemic, and we're going to be making some announcements on that in the near future as far as rolling that out. So,
Governor, on the
I'm
pandemic,
listening to
Governor,
his excuse me, I'm listening to his question.
yeah.
Follow-up question here.
Follow up, who is performing that review and when and will the results be public?
No, we are putting together a team right now, and again, some of the current administration, and most of them were not there at the time, but I also want to make sure that we're using outside experts who can have a very objective look as to what was going on at the time and the decisions that were made. And again, this is not to cast aspersions, blame, criticism. It's just to give a real analysis of what this state went through for over 2 years during the pandemic, but particularly early on. So say, yes, we would do this again. It worked. It was successful. No, we will not do this again. And that is what I don't have the answer to right now. But I'll be announcing who's comprising this, leading this study. As I mentioned this a couple months ago, I said we've been working diligently. We've had a few other issues we had to get through at this time. We've been distracted with Buffalo and some other issues we've had to put our full attention on. So, but I'm not forgetting. I'm not losing sight of that. The people of the state deserve to know. They deserve to know what went into the decision-making process. But again, there was a lot of things that we were going to say we would want to do again. What made sense? Changes in our laws, executive order. Open meetings and having the availability of insurance companies covering telehealth services. There were some ideas that came out of this that actually we wanted to preserve, and that's why I want it to be a truly objective analysis. All right.
Governor, you expedited a FOIL request for us on the unemployment system in New York, and we got the FOIL request back. But I've been requesting an interview with you and the DOL commissioner for months, and I haven't been able to get any responses. So I was just wondering if you could just answer one question for me about unemployment